Good morning, YouTube friends and family. Welcome to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So I'm out here with my girly girls. There's Miss Violet, who will soon be talking. But I want to show you a little change, and we are going to harvest a few more tomatoes this morning. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Tomato Palooza. So I'm still getting some really nice tomatoes, but I'm also having this type issue on some of them. I do not treat my tomatoes, but I also have beautiful ones. So most of these are still ripening on the vine. I've got some purples over here. Back in here, I have a chicken helping me aerate my wood chips. And this is what the girls have learned to do. They just pick themselves a tomato and they enjoy it. Yeah, but there's some changes in the garden I want to share. So the first thing you're going to notice is I am devoid of zucchini. Hello, Fancy Ray. Hello, Marigold. But I am not devoid, y'all, of pumpkins. So many butternut squashes. So I did pull them out yesterday just to allow more room for the pumpkins, which are now clear over to the sunflowers. And then also, guys, I removed my cucumbers. So this is probably the earliest my garden has ever started really showing signs of fall. And y'all, looky there, that is a bloom on my loofah. So let's go inside and we're going to talk about new ways to process tomatoes. You know, I had that on 2.2 times or whatever, so I apologize. But guys, this is a big basket, as you see, and these are all of my ripe tomatoes. So in my sink here, I have my Thieves Fruit and Veg Wash, and even though look at this beauty, guys, and this crazy monster. Even though I grow things organically, I'll get it out, y'all. Doesn't mean that they're devoid of dirt. And I want to get them clean before I start dipping and skinning them. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole big bunch of time talking about the canning process. I am going to spend a little bit of time because I can my tomatoes in a little bit different way. And I've done this video before, so if you're a long-time subscriber, you can be like, yeah, I know that. But, my word, y'all, there's a lot of maters. And a lot of dirt. Let's get this out of the way. So, I use a cold process method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak these for a little bit, rinse them really well. Then I'll start dipping them in boiling water. I will remove the skins and cores. And then depending on the size of the tomato, I may quarter them, I may halve them. You can do it with whole tomatoes, but no water. So cold jars, cold canner to start with. So let me get kind of that process started, and I'll bring you back. But you're gonna wanna stay tuned to a little later in the video because, y'all, I have a new recipe to do with cherry tomatoes. So I grew cherry tomatoes for my son, who doesn't live at home. And has taken some, but I have all the cherry tomatoes. So I found a tomato confit recipe that will keep many months in the fridge that I want to try with some of my homegrown garlic and homegrown basil. So I hope you'll stay tuned to a little later in the video. I'll try to make this part quick, but still give you the info. So stay tuned. All right, y'all. So once the tomatoes come out of the boiling water, they almost skin themselves. So this is a type of Amish paste tomato. And what I'm doing here is just coring if they need to be cored and peeling, and then I'm setting them in my clean sink, because somebody will have to say, you didn't wash your sink. But since I know y'all know how to wash sinks, I'm not going to worry about that. So this is one of the purple tomatoes. Isn't it beautiful? So just because the tomato has a blemish, it doesn't mean that it's unusable. So I'm just going to cut this little blemish out. And over here I have my compost bucket. And I'm finding some that are just not going to be cannibal, but for the most part cannibal. Is that a... I don't mean like a people eater, but you know, I'll have to cut this out. But I'm just doing like the major peel at this point and taking out anything undesirable and then coring. Once I get them all dipped, peeled, cored, the whole thing, then I will show you how I do the jars and share the recipe, which is in the ball canning book. Okay, this is like really stuck on. So what you'll find is where it is not as ripe, sometimes it's really stuck on. If your water gets warm, just drain it, add some cool. Just quickly, if you can see how the skin has split, that's the look you're going for. Depends on the size of the tomato, how long I leave it in the boiling water. But I just continue to load up. I usually do about 4 tomatoes at a time, and I'll just continue on until I have all these tomatoes processed. All right, y'all, on page 356 in the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving is raw packed tomatoes with no added liquid. So you need tomatoes, really, bottled lemon juice or citric acid. I prefer citric acid, and salt. So I am doing quarts, and it says we need half a teaspoon of citric acid and a teaspoon of salt, and again, not iodized salt. So I think I'm going to use my pink Himalayan. And you want to leave a generous 1/2 inch headspace, and you want to press those tomatoes in the jar, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. Guys, it's a little bit messy, but it's so good because you don't add any water. So your jars are cold, your tomatoes are cold, your canner is cold. Then for a quart, you want to process the jar for 85 minutes, and same for pint. So I decided to go for quart because if I'm making a soup, a stew, a chili, I'm going to be using a quart, and that's all there is to it. But I can tell you, I feel, and I'm going to grab a measuring spoon, guys, that my tomatoes are far superior tasting. Now, as you see here, I have, well, there's a little bubble. I think the hardest part of this is getting all the bubbles out. And you don't necessarily even need a funnel. I just kind of smush them in there, but it makes a mess on the jar. So it looks like we're pretty air bubble free. And that is about a 1/2 inch headspace on each. I am going to add my 1/2 teaspoon of citric acid and my teaspoon of salt. Yeah, I know, I could get a smaller bag, or I could put it in a jar, right? Every time I get it out, I'm like, I should so do that. It would make getting it out much easier. So I put this on the top. Let me grab my salt, which I think is already out somewhere. Y'all, if you could see my kitchen. Well, I guess you can see my kitchen. It's a mess. It's a mess. But hey, it's harvest time. And I will clean when I get all done. So my teaspoon of pink Himalayan. Now, because I've ooped all over the jar, I'm going to do 2 things. First, I'm just going to wipe the jar because I've got tomato seeds and such. And y'all, if you don't want tomato seeds, you're going to have to run it through a mill or cut them all out. I don't mind the seeds. I think it makes it tasty. The girls sure like it. I'm just pushing that salt down in there just a little bit. And you may notice too, I use different kinds of tomatoes in the same jar, and I'm totally fine with that. Oh, then I'm gonna go around with my vinegar. And y'all, the vinegar probably isn't necessary. You could probably just use plain water, but I'm using the vinegar just in an effort to make sure that my jars seal. I am using the 4 jars canning lids. Love those. So I'm gonna set these in the cold canner. I'm gonna keep working. I will be surprised if I have more than 4 quarts, but I might. And then we'll get on to what I decided to make myself do the hard work first. We're gonna do the fun thing, and we are gonna make some tomato confit. If you've never heard of it, you're gonna wanna try it. Stay tuned. You can usually tell how hard I've worked in a day when the chair comes out. And let me pull it out so it doesn't squeak through this whole thing. There we go. So, what have I done? I have used my Thieves fruit and vegetable wash to wash all the tomatoes. I have them just sitting here on a little tea towel to dry. And what I'm looking for is to pull the ends off and any blemishes. Of course, the first one I pick up is fine. So, you know, this little thing. So I am just gonna pop those off, and I'm going to put them over here into a 9 by 13 baking dish. Now, this is highly dependent, of course, on the size of your tomato haul. And guys, I have a couple of the bigger tomatoes that I'm gonna just slice in two, and I'm gonna cook those as well. So what is a confit? Well, I always think of the French meaning, which is duck cooked in its own fat, but really what it means is cooking a food in its own liquid that is inhospitable to bacterial growth. Thank you, Google University. Aren't these gorgeous, guys? These are like a very sweet orange tomato. Wow. Okay, I don't know that. Yep, we're not gonna use that one. So occasionally I've got boo-boos on them. But yeah, so I won't be using this one because it's already been used by a bug. But I'm just gonna fill this up, and we are going to first roast these tomatoes in a really good coating of olive oil and a little bit of salt. And we're gonna put them into a 400-degree oven. Now, y'all, it depends on the size, I think, and the depth of the tomatoes that you're gonna be using. Since some of mine are small and some of mine are bigger, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to need more like the 25-minute. But Miss Cindy over there is warming up because this is a quick job once they're washed and dried. Once we have roasted them, we're gonna let them cool so that they're, you know, cool enough to handle. Wow, I'm cruising here. Okay. I'm not gonna debate on it, guys. And we will be adding some herbs and some garlic, and it's gonna be so good. And then this we will be able to store in the refrigerator for months, according to what I read and watch. Be sure you throw one on the floor for good luck. So I'm gonna keep on just redding these up in the little pan over here, and then I'll bring you back, show you how I'm going to do the olive oil and salt. By then the oven should be preheated. We'll go in and I will give you a time. By the way, can you hear that in the background? Yes, indeed, that would be my Ball Electric Fresh Deck canner, my water bath canner coming up to temp. It takes a long time, guys, and then it has to process for 85 minutes. But I got 5 full quarts, so I must be living right, because I literally added like a teaspoon of water to the last jar, and that was it. It came out perfectly. So I'm gonna continue to cut maters, and I'll bring you back to you shortly. Stay tuned, y'all. We have a big pan of cherry tomatoes, and now I'm gonna use some extra virgin olive oil. You can use classic olive oil, but olive oil is what is recommended. And I'm gonna be pretty generous here, and you'll understand why as we go along with the recipe. Now to that, I'm going to add some pink Himalayan. Got some lumps in my pink Himalayan. And you do want to be, fairly generous with your salt. I'm gonna say, for this big pan, I'm probably using a tablespoon and a half is going to be my guesstimate. Then you just want to get in there with your hands, and you want to make sure that all of your tomatoes are well coated with that salt and olive oil. Let me wash my hands very quickly. I'm going to be waterlogged by the end of the day with all the dishwashing and tomato peeling, but it's okay. It'll be good once you're eating. So we're going into our 400-degree preheated oven. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes. We'll see what they look like, but you want them juicy and well cooked. I think I have enough olive oil. You know what, y'all? Just a little more for good measure. All right, into the oven we go. While our tomatoes are roasting in the oven and getting all caramelized and yummy, I am peeling some of my homegrown garlic. And what I'm doing is I am just slicing it into little pieces, kind of like this. You can use as much or as little garlic, but to really make it tasty, I think you need plenty of garlic. Now you might think, oh my word, that's going to be overpowering with garlic. Franklin, I'm busy. Hey. Would y'all like a cat? That's his signal he wants a drink. I'm a little busy. If you slice versus cut garlic, if you slice versus smash garlic, garlic does not take on its really strong essence until you smash it, because there's chemical compounds within the garlic that then mix together and produce that, I'll say, overpowering garlic smell. So I'm going to keep working on the garlic. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get the cat a drink. And then the next thing we're going to do is I have washed up some of my beautiful homegrown basil. I'm going to trim this off the stem and just lay that aside. And when our tomatoes are cool enough, we'll begin layering them. And I'm going to be using a half-gallon mason jar, so a big jar. If I have more than that, I'll get another jar. I couldn't exactly tell. So I'll bring you back when our tomatoes are ready and we're ready to start assembling our confit. Y'all, it smells like a bit of tomato heaven in here. So I've let my tomatoes cool a little bit, and as you can see here, they have a lot of liquid. So that is the olive oil and the tomatoes. So we are going to layer these in a half-gallon jar. Boy, does it ever smell good. And I think I'm gonna aim for about 3 layers. Now, I probably won't have a full half-gallon, but I have what I have. Then you just want to put a little bit of your garlic in there to flavor it. And guys, I have all the basil. So we're going to put quite a few basil leaves in. Push that down. And go for another layer. Now, I'm going to have to think about what channel it was I saw this on. Just Dig It Farm. I knew it would come to me. And she made this. It was an older video, But I'm telling you what, it just looks so good. I thought, my mercy, have mercy, I need it. So, I'm going to try to do 4 layers. And of course that basil and that garlic, everything's washed and well dried too. You'll, I think, have a better result if you don't put anything wet in there. Yeah, let's try to do 4 layers here. Now you might have to top it off with some more olive oil because you want this completely submerged in order for it to stay fresh in your fridge. I'm going to add a little extra garlic on this layer. And a bunch of basil. And more tomatoes. Oh, this is going to be so good. And I'm going to save one to eat so I can give you a taste test. So what would you do with this concoction? It's very, very soft, as you see. You spread it on crusty bread, like a crostini. It's gonna be so good. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit more basil. Since I picked it and washed it. Now, you do want to debubble. I'm just using my debubbler. And you can see I need a lot more liquid in here. Even pressing the air bubbles out. And the tomatoes are still warm enough that I think it's going to kind of wilt that basil and release that flavor. I am going to do a taste test here. It shouldn't need salt or anything. Wow, guys. So much flavor. Now for flavor and prettiness, I'm going to poke some rosemary down. And again, this is, oops, oh, I may have to use the bubbler to get that down in there. You don't want anything sticking above your liquid. I think I might even cut those back a little bit. Can't say as it's unmessy. And the other really neat thing about it is once you're done with your tomatoes, you can use that olive oil as a flavored oil. I thought that was really neat too. So I'm just gonna continue to smoosh the rosemary down in there. Isn't that pretty? And then we're gonna take the rest of our liquid and pour over the top. And then you want to make sure everything is submerged. If you don't have enough liquid, I would say put some more plain olive oil in. But anything sticking up, exposed to the air, is subject to molding and spoiling your confit. I think we are good, y'all. So let me wash my hands right quick. Now I'm just going to use one of these plastic lids from Walmart and refrigerate that, and that is going to be a delicious meal complement anytime. So let me clean this mess up and I'll give you some final thoughts. Y'all, we managed to get all those tomatoes preserved up. I still have about 37 minutes on the counter, and then those will come out on the canning mat. I think I've cleaned all of the tomato flinging off the wall. I'm so messy. We have our beautiful jar of tomato confit, and I'll have to get busy making some crusty bread, so I have something to eat it on. But I want to let the flavors kind of mellow a little bit before I actually eat it, although it was delicious just as it was. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Hope it's given you some ideas if you too are dealing with a tomato extravaganza. I will say all the preservation I've done this year, this is the most I've ever done. It's gonna help me out for next year. I will not have to do as much. I try to consume everything within 2 years. I kind of overplanted, but that's okay because it's nice to have the bounty. I will see you all a little later this week. I have to think, guys, today is Friday. You'll be seeing it the following Thursday. And I'm sure we'll have something fun to do on Saturday. So until I see you again, please do me a big favor, smash that like button, drop me a comment below. You gonna try the tomato confit? If you're not a big fan of cherry tomatoes, this might be a way that you like them. I don't like all the peeling, so I'm thinking this is gonna be a good solution for me because they're roasted. All right, until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, take care.